Have you ever felt like you're balancing success on the edge of burnout? Welcome to PhD with Woman on It, Hack the Future. My name is not Beata Young. I'm Patrick L. Young. Unfortunately, Beata has been stuck today. A few gremlins have got into your travel schedule, so I'm stepping in for her. And I'm delighted to say it's wonderful to be back, ladies and gentlemen. Today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest, Bolutiwi Aiyesimoju. The topic, rekindle your life from corporate chaos to coaching clarity. And episode 161 starts here. Let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, too, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men like me as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my mojo and empathy is critical to you in order to rekindle your life from corporate chaos to coaching clarity. Let's go to some exciting news about what's been happening in the wide community of women on it during the course of this week. Well, first up, we've got Mais Taha, former PhD guest. Congratulations to our former guest, Mais Taha, for winning the Digital Changemaker Award at the Global Innovation Forum in Malta on October the 30th. Oh, Mais, that's just wonderful news. We're wishing you great continued success. Well done. Kelly Kageli, owner of My English Language Centre, and also, I do believe, a fabulous previous guest on this show, surely. Congratulations to Kelly Kageli on her 4th term with the USA Girl Scouts Overseas Council of Advisors, celebrating 100 years of empowering girls and championing leadership worldwide. Cheers to your continued impact. Another former PhD guest, the fabulous Nyla Beth Gavel. It was a pleasure to see you the other month when I was ringing the bell of the New York Stock Exchange. Nyla Beth, glad you could join us there. Cheers, Nyla Beth Gavel. You've been named one of DCI Live's 2024 New Power Women of Tech. Your leadership drives FlexNode's success in digital infrastructure. Way to go. Now let's get back to our topic for today. Rekindle your life from corporate chaos to coaching clarity. Have you ever felt like you're balancing success on the edge of burnout? Bolutiwi Aiyesimoju has been there from a high-intensity corporate role to becoming a transformative coach. She discovered the power of intuition in reshaping your destiny and identity. Now she's sharing her secrets in the Rekindle program, a 6-step journey to help you release, reconnect, and reignite your life. In the conversation, we'll also dive into the differences between therapy and coaching, offering insights for anyone who's felt overworked, disconnected, or stuck in the cycle of doing it all for everyone else. Gosh, ready to reclaim your energy, joy, and vision? Let's go. Bolutiwi, where in the world are you today?
I am in London, and thank you for that very warm welcome, Patrick.
You are very, very welcome, Bolutiwi. I didn't think I was going to get to do this today, so therefore I'm all excited at the idea I can do another show in my week. So tell me, therefore, Bolutiwi, you're in London. Are you from London originally, or where do you come from?
I'm from Nigeria originally. I lived in France, so I have a French passport, and I now live in England. Quite international.
Wow. Well, it's a big week for Nigerian-born women in London, isn't it? I mean, with a fellow Nigerian just taking the reins of the Conservative Party, and that's a very interesting piece of glass ceiling breaking going through there, which has got to be, whether you agree with the ladies' politics or not, at least it's exciting news for the Women on It community.
Yes, let's say, but I'm sure she identifies very much as a British at the moment.
I'm sure she does identify very much as British, absolutely. But I think it's marvelous, actually, that whereas in the United States of America, you have to be American born in order to manage to get that top job. By the way, did you know they had an election yesterday? They kept that quiet. The thing is that, I mean, the great thing about Britain is I love the fact that everybody's happy to adopt anybody. So you can be born in a completely different country and still become a party leader, possibly the prime minister as well, which is a great advantage to the United Kingdom, I have to say. So tell us a little bit about your corporate career. You plunged into your corporate career, first of all, in France or in the UK?
Definitely in France. I started working in France. I left the UK after university, went and did an MBA in France, and then was hired or picked by L'Oreal to work with them, and I did so for 14 years. So that's where I started my corporate career in France, definitely.
Fantastic. So as a matter of interest, roughly when was that you were at L'Oreal?
So I started working with L'Oreal in about 2002. Yes.
Okay.
Um, and then, yes, that's when I started working with them. It was quite an interesting experience because, talking of glass ceilings, the process was that I was working with three other men. So we were doing a project as an MBA, and all of us had the opportunity of being selected by L'Oreal. And when L'Oreal had observed us working with them for 9 months, only one person was chosen, and that happened to be me.
Well, there you go. Chosen one for PhD vid and also the chosen one for L'Oreal, which I think is a much more competitive process. That's quite incredible. Yes, it's interesting actually. You talk about that because the thing that strikes me is the one and only senior manager of L'Oreal I can ever remember encountering was actually, I think, then CEO or possibly CEO slightly before you joined. I do believe was that Lindsay Owen Jones, if my memory serves me correctly, because he used to race old cars. And I was quite shocked when I found out because I thought, why have they got a bloke running L'Oreal? Because I would have thought of all the companies in the world, surely that's the sort of company that would have definitely been lined up for potentially female management. But there you go. So tell us, how did that go? What happened in your career? Because obviously along the way, maybe this is a spoiler alert, there's an epiphany coming, right?
Absolutely. So I dove into L'Oreal. I was completely driven, and I use that word intentionally. I was a hyper achiever. My worth was very much linked to my results. I was on the fast track. It was amazing. And I did all kinds of things. It was a great opportunity to work in several countries. All my jobs were international. I worked in supply chain management. I worked in diversity and equity. I worked in marketing and sales. My final job was in business unit management, and all that was amazing. However, at some point, I started getting whispers that this was no longer for me. And my left brain, ego mind was like, no, but it's good. The perks are great. You're getting great money. You travel business class. And I'm just going to say this right now to everyone. The soul wants what it wants. And although, yes, it was a great school and I learned a lot and many, many things I benefit from even today, at some point, I was going through the motions, Patrick, but it felt like my soul had departed. And that's when I knew I had to wake up and smell the coffee. That something had to shift. Otherwise, I was going to go from burnout to worse.
So you're sitting in the wonders of the City of Light in Paris. You're immersed in what looks like the most incredibly glamorous industry. And essentially what you're saying is that whether it was the ballet, the opera, the Louvre, or just possibly the Tuileries Gardens, they were calling to you much more than the lure of next quarter's PowerPoint presentation.
I love that you said so. However, this exit happened in Dubai. Fabulous place as well. But it had nothing to do with the city, Patrick. It didn't. It was just
Yes.
to do. I think everybody has their destiny, and there was just something in me that knew I could do, I could be, I could have more. And although L'Oreal was a safe plan, the plan that, people said, are you crazy? How could you probably leave such a job, such an opportunity? You're valued, you're on the fast track. Something inside of me knew that this was not my destiny. I just didn't see myself there in the next 30 or 40 years. It no longer lit me up. And so I would wake up some mornings, to be very honest, let's just keep it real, and I'd literally feel ill, like sick. And as soon as I said, okay, I'm going to call work and say I'm not coming in, a rush of energy will come through me. So I thought, I don't think I found the magic cure for illness. So there must be some mind-body discorrelation occurring when it comes to my work.
Right. So you start listening to your body. Your body's sending you these messages. You're decoding them over time. Finally, you get to the point where you realize this is a magnificent company. It's an incredible opportunity. It has many good things, but it's just not working for Bolutiwi. That's a huge step to take forward. And it must have been, you mentioned that a lot of people thought you were mad. It must have been quite traumatic in itself to take that step into the wider world.
I like that you use the word trauma. I wouldn't say it was traumatic to take the step. I would actually say it was traumatic to continue trying to bend my soul into a pretzel to fit into preconceived ideas or old plans. My body was not liking it. I was going through all kinds of signs, and doctors did not know what was wrong with me. They kept saying there's nothing wrong, but I knew there was something wrong. What it was when I really tuned in and I said, okay, I could stay at L'Oreal and I could leave. And I asked myself the question, am I prepared to stay? The answer was a very clear no. And from that moment on, there was peace. There was no real visibility or reassurances about what I was going to do next. That came later. But Patrick, that was, I would say, one of the best decisions I have ever made in my life. Following the call of the
Well,
unknown.
that's the important thing. Go
Yes.
ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, following the call of the unknown, the ego finds it's scary, that your essence knows that you're taken care of. And that is what takes us from good to great. Because, yes, it's important for us, especially women, I would say, to really trust our guts and not feel we have to bend into or fit into other people's ideas of what gets to be our lives.
Whoa, Bolutiwi, I'm so sorry to have interrupted you a second ago, first of all, but that is really a profound message. And I have to say, I think it's hitting my masculine intuition just as much as it's hitting the many ladies and others who are out there watching us today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching us today discussing from corporate chaos to coaching, clarity with Bolutiwi, then please do give us a little bit of a like or some love, would you? Because this is a great conversation, I can tell after only 10 minutes. And we want to make sure more people understand by hearing from the robots what's going on in the world, and therefore that wonderful little AI thing can do its thing and get us further up the rankings of this great PhD show. So Bolutiwi, I mean, that's incredibly profound. You start listening to your own body. How do you know, how did it come about that you start then creating this methodology for your next stages of life? And if I may say so, I mean, kind of giving yourself not necessarily a cure from the rat race, but certainly alleviating the issues that you had previously where you just didn't feel comfortable.
That's a beautiful question. So the first thing I did was the decision that I was going to leave. I was going to take a leap of faith, like leave the nest. L'Oreal was the only company I'd ever worked in. So that's number one. The second thing I did was I went and did a lot of work on my own self. It wasn't business coaching. It was personal work on myself. So personal coaching, that was important. And I decided I had a choice. I could work with, places like the United Nations, so NGOs. I could go into therapy. I could go into coaching because I already knew I wanted to work with women. I knew I wanted to work with high achievers. I truly believe that when women shift, the whole world shifts. It's a deep belief of mine. And I decided to create my company called Magniessence. I had seen so many people, not only women, bend themselves into pretzels, become smaller so they could fit into what they thought was required to succeed in corporate. And there was something about that that really didn't sit well with me. I believe it's important that each of us can come to the table as our true, authentic selves. That is exactly where our power lies. That's the medicine the world needs. We're all different, and that difference is what makes us richer. And so I created Magniessence. I did work on myself first. I started my own business, and it's been a beautiful, beautiful journey in being able to hold space and witness shifts and transformation in the lives of women. When women light up and think, ooh, I just reconnected to my true self, as opposed to trying to fit into everybody else's opinion, which is very heavy, of what they think is good for me. So that's how that process started. Rekindle came later. And Rekindle is about rekindling your phenomenal essence. It's about moving from burning out and fizzling out to really that rejuvenation of who you are and your essence, your spirit, your true self. And there are 6 steps to rekindle, from releasing, letting go of the old, relaxing, which is an opening up, because when you're stressed, you're constricted, reconnecting, walking to the beat of your own heart, re-envisioning your life from a space of reconnectedness, rejoicing, where you know that you're no longer going to say, I'm going to be happy when. You start understanding that your choice to be joyful is what generates your success. And then we end with receiving. Because I could give you lots of things today, compliments, money, all sorts of things. If you are not capable of receiving it, if your receiving muscle is weak, then you will somehow repel it. And so it doesn't land, it's not embodied. So those are the 6 steps to rekindling your life and moving from stress and scarcity to abundance, to bliss, to being that version of yourself that you know is living the life that you want to lead.
Wow. Now, there's a lot to unpack there. And as I was only preparing for this show at very, very short notice, I hope you'll appreciate the fact that I'm just digesting that. Maybe it's a masculine brain thing. It's taking a few seconds for me to receive all those messages. There's a lot in there. I mean, if we start unpacking this, so how does this work? I mean, you mentioned the 6-step program. First of all, remind us, I think you said your clients are predominantly female executives. Is that right?
Yes, women leaders, those are mostly my clients, absolutely.
Okay, so the women leaders, are they predominantly in the UK or do they come from all over?
All over the world. As long as you have access to Wi-Fi, you're good.
Good. So therefore, you've got a potential target base starting at about 5-6 billion people. That's a very handy marketplace to start with. So when you go into doing these sorts of stages, I mean, is there a kind of a set standard program time, or does it take a lot longer to work on certain stages with different people?
That's actually a great question, Patrick. So the program is over 6 months, and I'll just say this. We all start with release. And the reason I start with release is many people think, okay, I have a goal. I want to achieve my goal. I'll just put things in place and I go for it. Awesome. And there are things that are actually preventing you from achieving that goal already, or you'd already have it. So I want you to just imagine that you have a garden and you would love to do some landscaping. And in the garden right now, there's a lot of rocks or rubbish or things that you just don't want there. They're not beautiful. They're not doing anything for your vision. You don't start by putting things on top of the unwanted things. You weed and you clear the space. It's the same thing. We work on releasing shame, blame, doubt, guilt, and all those low vibrational emotions, thought patterns. We bring them to the surface so we can see them. Because if you cannot see it, then you cannot shift it. And if you're not shifting it and it's detrimental or not aligned to your vision and where you want to go, then you will stay stuck, which, by the way, is a part of why people burn out. So we start with release. And each of those phases is 1 month. So everyone goes through that. And it's beautiful because it's done it's a hybrid program where you have both a group element and an individual element. And so we're taking the adapted time for each person as well as moving with the group. And that moving with the group, if I might say something, accelerates the progress. When geese move together in formation, they move 70% further and higher than when they're alone. When women come together with positive intention, I personally have seen miracles happen. It's palpable in the room. So that's how that goes.
Gosh, that's incredible. And I think actually, therefore, you've also answered a question for me, because I was going to say, so why do you not involve men in the program? But actually, I can see a very good reason why you want to have a woman-only program, because that's something where the sisterhood can come together and work together in a similar fashion. I understand that bit without even asking the question. There you go. I mansplained it for you. So if we're looking at this whole, incredible process of what goes on, do you have a lot of people that start the program and drop out, or do most people manage to carry on and complete the 6 months?
That's such a great question. No, my completion rate is pretty much 100%.
Well,
It's yes, because, well, maybe it's the kind of people I attract, maybe it's the kind of energy I have in the group. There is accountability. I'm holding people high, and also the kind of people I attract really, there's a goal they want, there's a desire they have, right? And so I don't have an issue with people coming in and not completing. This is not something that I have happened to have experienced, to be honest. And going back to what you said about men, I think you hit the nail on the head. In that group environment, yes, I desire for it to be 100% feminine. I have worked with men, but it will be more an individual one-to-one, um, let's just say, situation, not in that group setting. It's a very different vibration.
I think that's quite understandable. I really do. I appreciate that entirely. So, I mean, you've discussed for us brilliantly release and why you have to give off release first of all. And it's very, very obvious, as you say, like a flower bed, or you don't wallpaper your walls by adding a new coat of wallpaper on top of the previous ones, unless you want to have a surprise a few months later. So explain to us then, I mean, can you give us an idea of what are the sort of transformations you've seen in emotional intelligence or personal magnetism as people work through the different phases?
Absolutely. Where do I start? So I'm thinking of a lady, she was also in corporate. She was having horrible experience with one of her line managers, and this had been going on for years. And we started working together. And during the program, going through the release, the relax, reconnection, and really tuning into herself and shifting from within without pointing those fingers out, it was like magic. This manager who had been horrible to her and kept criticizing her all the time, and she felt disregarded and unseen and unappreciated by him, completely changed his tune. And this was very interesting, was because it wasn't because she had gone and had a conversation with him and said, hey, you did this, and this, and you get to improve. Something within her shifted. She released certain things. She reconnected with her own value, and he shifted. That was one big example I have. Another example is a woman who, high achiever, super intelligent, very creative, worked for one of the biggest companies in the world. She had had relationships with a man that had left her wounded. Let me just say, put it that way. And during the program, she was able to heal. She was able to meet someone, and who has become her fiance, and she's in love, and things are going well. So healing that part of you, which is important, because I think also sometimes as high achieving women, and I consider myself one of these women, is we forget as well that you're not just a manager, you're not just an executive, you're not just a leader, you're also a human with all the needs of love and connection, right? And those things, being your cup being filled in those areas, only makes you stronger when it comes to your professional life. We mustn't forget that to show up with our A game professionally, we must be filling our cup personally. As I love to say, you don't fly a jet plane with the same fuel as you run a scooter. You need higher quality fuel, and you need much more of it. So if you want a big life where you want to succeed professionally and be fulfilled personally, then you get to fill your cup on those personal notes as well. And another last thing I'm going to share in terms of examples is women who've come into my program, and this just makes my heart sing. And they say, Bolutiwi, I am more relaxed, I am doing less, I'm achieving more, and I'm earning more. My relationships are better. And I'm just like, yes. So these are the kind of transformations that can happen. People earn more, people have better relationships, people heal from physical ailments, people shift their trajectory of where they're going in life. They have epiphanies. People move from people pleasing to truly standing in their power. So I could go on, Patrick. So it depends on how long you've got.
I wish we had all evening, Bolutiwi. I really, really do. It's absolutely fascinating and very, very moving. And ladies and gentlemen, do please give us some love on this channel this evening, because this is a fantastic show as we're here with Bolutiwi Aiyesimoju, discussing from corporate chaos to coaching clarity. And actually, let me just hit one nail on the head here. That word coaching. I'm kind of, in some ways, what you do could be regarded as perhaps being a kind of therapy. Where do you see the balance between what is coaching, what is therapy, and how that intermeshes?
So I'm not going to be textbook here. I'm just going to share my perspective on this. So when I came out of L'Oreal and I knew I wanted to work with women, I knew I could go down therapy or I could go down coaching. The reason that I chose coaching is maybe also part of because of my personality. I like to have a goal. I like to be clear about where I am, and we move towards the goal. Therapy can be useful, I find. It's not, I don't have anything against it. However, I'm just not the kind of person who is going to be comfortable sitting on having somebody sit on my couch and discuss anything for 12 years, right? The unpacking of what hurts and wounds we may have, I think, has its space. However, sometimes, and I say sometimes, when we keep talking about the same thing over and over and over again, we go past the weeding, we start replanting, right?
Yeah.
So we keep reliving, and I love neuroscience, and you probably know this as well, that if you keep thinking the same thought or saying the same thing, then the pathways in your brain just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I like to be more aspirational. What is it that you want? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? What do you want to have? Great. So grounded in vision, we can then identify what the blocks may be so we may shift. But it's never simply because, we're doing a woe is me. As I say to my clients, I say, look, there is it's good to dive deep into whatever it is, pick up the pearl and come back up. What I find rather useless is to wallow in a shallow pool, no gifts, no learning, no growth, nothing, and you keep staying there. So that's my perspective.
And if it hadn't been for the wonders of pearl fishing, we'd never have had the Great Pearl Fishers Duet by, who was that? Leo Delibes, I think. Yes, I agree with you. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic to dive and come back up. So let me understand your program over these 6 pointers again. So you start and you essentially go out, you do the weeding at stage 1. So does that mean that we kind of go in and dive deep in part 1, and then we're gradually coming all the way back up through the rest of the show? Or is it a situation where over the 6 months things ebb and flow?
That's a great question. So once we start releasing, I don't want people to think, oh, we've released everything in a month, in the first month. No. Once we start releasing, we understand what releasing is. It's something that we just continue to do, letting go and letting go and letting go. And you'll find that as you grow, there might be different things that come up for you to release. So look at it like something you're building on, but the foundation is releasing. Then we step into relaxation. Doesn't mean, in fact, the more you release, the more relaxed you are. I'll tell you that for free. The more you let go of these old patterns, thoughts, emotions that have been holding you back consciously or subconsciously, the more relaxed you are. The more you learn to relax, the more open you are. Right. And one thing I'm going to say here is also, many times, and I made this mistake as well, high achieving women come to the table where they see rest as a reward. But I'm saying rest is your birthright. It's not a reward. We get to come to the table rested, because otherwise we start making mistakes from a place of exhaustion. And when we make mistakes from a place of exhaustion, they are lower quality choices. Right? So we don't want to be making decisions or choices from that place of exhaustion. Right? So we want to be rested. So just to answer your question, once a step has been established, we build upon it. And so if you get to release anything in the reconnected phase, be my guest. It's like a cycle. It's more cyclical than linear, if that makes sense.
I get it. That's fantastic. Rest is your birthright, not a reward. What a great line, and absolutely one we'll all take home and cherish during the course of the weeks and months to come. So, I mean, when you start these programs and you work with different people, what I'm hearing here is that the benefits aren't just, although there are benefits to people's careers, they truly can be holistic for the people who join your program.
Absolutely. So the benefits, my perspective is this. No matter what you come to me and say your challenge is, so whether it's professional or personal, whatever it is, you are the person with this challenge. You are the person with a desire. So my perspective is when you shift your identity, then you shift your destiny. And so, yes, the more you work on yourself, the more you rekindle your essence, the more you will find that every area of your life is shifting. So holistic it is, and I love holistic. I love 360 solutions. I don't want to go to 20 people to solve an issue, right? Because we both know that we are very multidimensional beings.
I get it. No, yeah, absolutely right. And indeed, you don't need to be in there for multiple different lines of, however we want to term it, coaching, therapy, or programs simultaneously in order to manage to do things holistically. And actually, so much of it is interrelated, as you yourself tell us from your original story of feeling so uncomfortable at work, which was impacting your whole life. So, I mean, is there anybody for whom this program cannot work?
I have a naughty answer. So, this program is not for you if your butt is too big, in the sense that if you're the kind of person who's always saying, oh, yes, but, oh, yes, but, if you, oh, yes, but, then it's not for you. It's definitely not for you. I can hear you laughing. It's not for you if you're a person who is more attached to your comfort zone than you are committed to your goals and to your vision. Then it's just not for you. The kind of people that I attract, the kind of people who I work with, are those people who know within themselves and have that desire to make a difference in the world. There's a difference they want to make. There's something they want to get done. There's a legacy they want to leave. Or they're in a space where they're looking to reconnect with themselves, to find themselves again, and to move from that trampoline. So, not for the people who are all about the bud, all about the comfort zone, all about, oh, the victim, woe is me. It's just not the kind of container that will support that kind of reiteration of, let me just say, arguing for your limitations.
Right. So, in other words, if you're not willing to change, don't bother trying to come to a change program, which seems entirely kind of reasonable, even though some people may suggest that they think they want to change, and that, of course, instantly eliminates them from the program, from what I can hear. Totally get it, Bolutiwi. That's absolutely clear in terms of it will work for those who are of open mind and open heart and want to change and want to adapt and want to make for a better person and a better world. So, I mean, in terms of once people have gone through this program, do they do kind of refreshers with you, or do you have alumni meetings, or do you simply allow them to go free and they fly off like one of the birds in the Birdman of Alcatraz?
Completely a choice. I believe in sovereignty, right? And that's one of the things we work on. So if a person has finished a 6-month program and feels, I feel complete, good for you. However, my doors are open, and if they want to work with me further, that's also a possibility. So there are ways of working with me further, and that will depend on the person, where they're at, and what they feel they need at that point in time. But it's not a program where I'm trying to make anybody stay. Everyone knows what they've received during the 6 months. They know where they're at, and they will decide, do I want to start again now? Do I want to do something else? Completely up to the person. Freedom is key.
So I get it. So you give and deliver remarkable sovereignty to all those that you're working with. What other points do you think makes your Rekindle program stand out from, say, other kinds of personal growth programs?
I love that question. So one of the things that people have really told me that really, really they appreciate is the constant support. So there's daily accountability, which many programs don't have. So that's something that we have. They also love the fact that in addition to having the group sessions. We also have one-to-one sessions. You have that moment to dive deep into things that may be very personal and you'd rather keep, or where I can tune into your unique energy, because I'm very good at sensing is something in alignment or not, and then we dive deep into that. Another thing about the program people like is that we look at the mind, we look at the body, we look at space, your environment, and we look at your spirit. So it's that holistic approach. And when you look at all of those things simultaneously going with those four, it accelerates your progress much more than if you were looking at one at a time. So women have come into my program because they wanted to become better leaders, and found that they've been able to change their relationship with food, which has helped their health, their energy levels, brain function. Can you see where we went there? So it's a very holistic program. And if you want to be held accountable and you really want to step into commitment and consistency in the energy of a positive, high vibrational group, then this is definitely something that many people appreciate about the program.
Wow, that's just fascinating altogether. So, taking this program as a whole, it lasts 6 months. It takes you from being already a great aspirational leader, but hopefully makes you, as a female leader, something even better, even more special in the future. Are you able to share with us, I mean, particularly at the high level, say, some interesting success stories that you have, either at the micro level, in the real life area, or in the career area?
Yes. So, for example, I've worked with women before who, when they started working with me, were very unhappy with their managers, were very unhappy with their salaries, were very unhappy with just everything in their lives. And by the time we finished working together, they were earning 3 times what they were earning initially. They'd shifted their relationships with their managers, were now living in a part of town they felt really happy about. So their whole life level upgraded. Another example I can give you is a woman who struggled. She's a leader, she's very successful at work, but had struggled with her relationship with food for many, many years. In fact, she had a weight issue, to be frank. And what was sad about it was she'd come to the point where she was so confused, Patrick, and so sad, because nothing she did worked. And she would say, this is right, that's right. And she just, where do I go with this? And as many people who are listening understand, when in your body, woman or man, you don't feel good for whatever reason, that chips away at the quality of your life. And I'm just so delighted to say, and she said for the first time, and she's kept it up for months, so almost a year now, she is eating in a way that reflects self-love as opposed to hating yourself. She's healing her body. She's shedding the pounds. She has more energy. People are complimenting her. And so that makes me particularly happy, because I used to work in the beauty industry, you know this, and people may say, oh, beauty is superficial. Well, if when you look in the mirror, you do not feel good, this in many ways can affect your confidence and your ability to show up fully in life and really go out there and do what you're meant to do. So I am so delighted for her. And another example I have is a woman who was going through a divorce. And anybody who's gone through a divorce knows that it can be hellish. In her situation, it was quite contentious, even had custody issues involved. And the feedback she gave me was the way she was able not only to handle herself, but also manage her husband as well, and just create as much peace as possible in that whole situation. And so she's now met somebody else. She's, for the first time in her life, with a man who she says loves her and cherishes her and is there and supports her, as opposed to she being the provider emotionally, physically, etc. in the relationship. So that's a shift in her identity, which allowed her, one, receive this relationship, but maintain it. Because what happens sometimes is, even when we receive a beautiful gift, could be love or a new job, if we're not vibrationally aligned and if we're still operating from the old traumas, you mentioned the word earlier, we will do something to sabotage it, Patrick. And so it's good that she was in the program while she was in this new relationship, so we could manage the emotional, let's say, kickbacks of, ooh, this is not mine. So I could go on and on again.
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, it's really, really marvelous. And actually, I mean, you mentioned this lady who over a year and a half or so has transformed her relationship with food, the lady who's ended up with a marvelous new relationship because she's feeling much better about herself. I think you made a very, very interesting insight into the beauty business there, because I think some people think that it's because of L'Oreal that we make ourselves beautiful, whereas actually the whole business of L'Oreal was surely just to ever so slightly tweak what was already a perfect, wonderful understructure to make it absolutely marvelous. I'm just interested actually to follow up quickly. The first example you gave us was of somebody, and I mean, you gave us some quite staggering numbers, which are fantastic. You're talking about she went to 3x salary, she moved to a much better part of town, etc., etc. Now your program's 6 months. I mean, can you give us a rough window of over what period of time her life transformed like this?
So with that particular client, that occurred within about 3-4 months.
Whoa. Gosh, that is truly incredible. I mean, that's quite. So she was only really at stage 2, stage 3, and already you'd propelled her into much greater things. That's just absolutely incredible. I'm feeling very inspired here today, ladies. In case you haven't worked out watching this show, talking to Bolutiwi Aiyesimoju. So, Bolutiwi, I mean, what advice would you give to females to help their career or start an entrepreneurial journey like yourself?
I think the first thing I'll say to anybody who wants to start anything is, and I'll share a mistake I made. I used to make my decisions from an ego-based perspective, so quite logical. What will everybody think? What will make me look good? And I will say, as much as possible, tune into your heart. That thing. In fact, there's this quote, and I don't know who said it, but there's a quote about saying, when you want to decide what you're doing, instead of asking what the world needs, ask yourself what brings you joy and then go and do it. So my invitation to everyone, career, entrepreneurship, is step into your joy and make your decisions from there. If it sparks joy for you, there is definitely something at the end of that.
Whoa, that's fantastic. Step into your joy, ladies and gentlemen. That's a great incentive altogether. So, I mean, when you come to this, I mean, you just mentioned the very interesting process of the ego and so on and decision making. What is your strategy for problem solving, Bolutiwi?
I love that question. So, first of all, I'm just going to say that you cannot solve a problem from the same mind that created it. Not my quote, that's Einstein. And so, the first thing I'm going to invite you to do, and I used to look for problems. My mind loved to chew on them. So my strategy now is, whenever something comes up and I think, oh, problem, which is judgment, by the way, is to see, what's the gift in this for me? What's the opportunity in this for me? That already shifts your energy. Doesn't mean you're not going to change the situation or find a solution, but are you approaching it with judgment, this is bad, or stress? Or are you saying, ooh, this is an opportunity for me to see and shift something, so maybe this will never happen again. So I would say, first of all, know that the same mind that created the problem cannot solve it. So you get to shift into a different mind perspective. And second of all, approach problems seeing them as an opportunity or a gift.
Fabulous. Now, you've mentioned as we go along, Bolutiwi, your work, and it's been very much about you and how you've been working with all these women and how you've shaped their career. But I mean, none of us are able to achieve success without some help along the way. Is there a particular person you're grateful towards who helped you to get you where you are?
Oh, I have a long list. I have a long list. I'm so grateful to one of my coaches, Sonia, who I started my personal development journey with. I am shout out to her. Super grateful. I'm grateful to many of the leaders, managers who, when I was in L'Oreal, mentored me, supported supported me, protected me, just gave to me generously and poured into me, I would not have been able to navigate as well or as easily. And I can think of Clotilde, I can think of Mr. Laforgue, Mr. Comte, Mr. Del Rio, Jean-Claude Legrand. I mean, there are many, many of them, I must say. I'm also grateful to my parents, because one thing my parents infused into me as a child was confidence, the ability to speak up, to speak my mind, to share my opinion, not to be afraid of being authentically who I am. Because I saw many people in the workplace just shy away from being who they were, say yes to everything, even though it didn't make sense. I would ask, why are we doing this? And I know that, yes, I may have my personality, but it's also thanks to that home from which I came that supported me in doing that. And may I say that you may come from a home that's very supportive or a home that's completely dysfunctional. What matters, though, is today the ability to make your choices, to make your decisions, not from whatever happened in the past, but from where you want to go. So I just wanted to say that as well.
Fantastic. So you have these recurring 6 monthly programs that you're working on at all time. Are you working on any exciting new projects at the moment?
Yes, actually, I'm going to be doing a retreat very soon. I'll be sharing the information. It's going to be a retreat for women again. And it's going to be really creating a space where we can come, we can introspect, we can let go, and we can envision. Because I think sometimes we get into the drudgery of the old and, the days rolling into one and each other, and we forget to be pulled by that vision. We forget also to do so from a space of physical, mental, emotional relaxation. So a retreat is coming up soon. It's going to be an online retreat. So wherever in the world you are, you can join, and I'll be sharing the information soon.
Fascinating. And you beat me to it there, because I was going to ask, where were you going to go to? Because I was thinking of some wondrously exciting locations around the world, but instead you're going to allow people to come from their own wonderfully exciting, gorgeous homes and join you online wherever you are. Magnificent. Well, now, as I mentioned earlier, because nobody's been talking about it, there's been an American presidential election this week. And Eleanor Roosevelt, a very famous first lady, once said, women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we're in hot water. In life, Bolutiwi, how are you in hot water? How are you brewing?
I love that. So, it's interesting. I remember a certain time when I was in L'Oreal and I was in a particular job. And I don't know whether you've ever worked in corporate before, Patrick, but it can get quite political, to say the least. And I recall at that time, I was pretty young, I was under 30, and there was a lot of political backlash on something that I had proposed. And even what I would call betrayal, certain teams I thought we were on the same side, but they were basically just waiting to kind of push me out of it. And I remember the day that I realized that I had been played. I can remember that day like it was yesterday. And I remember that I sat to my desk and I had this goal. I wanted 1,000 managers to be trained in 1 year. And it was a thing, it hadn't been planned the year before. So I had to get into enrolling people. And Patrick, that day was interesting because I realized that I could spend the next year fighting with them by email sort of wars, or I could focus 100% on my goal. And that day brought me a lot of calm. I shifted the responses of the emails to my managers. I'm like, Mr. Delry, you're going to deal with this. And I just focused on creation. I focused on love. I focused on the vision. I focused on moving things forward. Well, to cut a long story short, when I am in those situations, when I have my back against the wall, as you say, I get very cool and I get calm. And 1,000 and so people were trained by the end of the year. Objective achieved. So I was very pleased about that. So yes, when it gets hot, I can get cool.
Wow, when the going gets tough, Bolutiwi gets going, no doubt about that whatsoever. Good for you. And I mean, yes, politics and corporate environments, well, let's not go there. There's a trauma for us all to relive at some stage. Tell us, on a more positive note, what's the #1 book you can sit back and think, oh, I wish I'd read that before I started my career?
The Dream Giver.
Fabulous.
The
What's that about? Tell us.
So that's a great book. Everybody should read that book. It's a book basically that tells you how within you there is a dream. And the only thing that's stopping you from fulfilling that dream is when you buy into the belief that you're ordinary. And people will want to pull you into being ordinary. But I don't know the beliefs of people, how spiritual you may be. The idea is that there is someone who has given you this dream. And if that dream is implanted, and it will not necessarily be easy to realize or achieve the dream, because you get to leave the land of the ordinary to go into the land of the extraordinary. And that journey is within. It's not a physical sort of journey. So the Dream Giver, I recommend everyone reads. If you read that book regularly, then your faith will increase, your confidence will increase. You will see obstacles not as tombstones, you will see them as stepping stones. So the Dream Giver, without any stretch of, like, that's the book you get to read.
How marvellous. The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. Sounds like a fantastic tome altogether. I'm going to look it up myself at some stage. Now, let's imagine, because as you were saying earlier on, rest is a right. It's not something that you have to fight to earn. Let's imagine you could meet anyone in the world for a private breakfast. Who would it be and where would you choose to meet?
I'll say Oprah. I want to meet Oprah because I love to interview people. I love her perspective, and I love how there's something she says which really strikes me. And she says that her life has not been built based on what she wanted to do. Her life is being built based on her asking in what way she could be of service, in what way she could be an instrument. So I would love to meet Oprah, and I would love to meet Oprah in one of my favorite theme places, a beautiful beach, white, pristine sand, turquoise waters. We're having breakfast and our feet are in the water. That's the scene I'd love to meet Oprah.
Oh, I have to say, if you get Oprah's phone number, we'll be happy to host you nearby in our beach house. That's something we can possibly offer you. We can certainly offer you very pristine. I don't know if it's quite white, but it's certainly a lot brighter than the average sand in a lot of places. So there you go. It's a possibility. Very interesting. Oprah on a beautiful beach. It sounds absolutely idyllic altogether. And can you give us, please, Bolutiwi, your favorite life lesson quote?
So I'll say there are two. One is shift your identity, shift your destiny. Because for me, if you're doing all the right things and you're not shifting who you are being, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. It's really not going to work or bear the fruit that it could. So any change you want to effect, anything that you want that you don't have now, one of the most important, powerful places you want to look at is, who am I being? Shifting that identity. And the other quote, you asked me for one, but I'll give you two, is gratitude is the attitude that takes you to the altitudes. If in life you are focusing on what you're grateful for, even through difficult interactions with people, difficult experiences, or difficult circumstances, even from a neurological perspective, this is one of the most powerful tools for a turnaround, for a change or a shift in the circumstances. But your gratitude is coming from within. You are stepping into sovereignty. You are stepping into self-leadership. You are choosing to see, to find at least one thing for which you can be grateful, instead of having the laundry list of things that will cause you to be stressed and discontented because you are focusing on them. So those two quotes.
Marvelous. I absolutely love them. The second one actually is running through my head. I think it should be appearing on MTV or something, if they still have MTV. I don't know. I'm not so far out of date. But I mean, the idea, I would have certainly thought that, and gratitude is the attitude that takes you to the altitude, should certainly be something that should be on the lips of some heavily jewelried young lady at some point in time singing with attitude. I would have thought somewhere out there. It sounds like a great tune, an absolutely epic tune. Maybe it's your calling, Bolutiwi. Maybe you should be trying it yourself at some stage. Fabulous quotations. I mean, seriously, I really, really appreciate them. They're great, but they rhyme so beautifully. They're quite magnificent. So, I mean, if you could give our viewers or listeners one bold challenge or a piece of actionable advice to help them take their career to the next level, what would that one piece of advice be?
I'll say this. I would say, just as you're investing in all the strategy, invest in your state. When you invest in your state of being, the strategy becomes so much easier. So invest in your state of being, invest in you as a human being. That will bring you the richest rewards ever. So that's what I'm going to say. All the doing is great, but who are you being?
Fantastic. And so how can they start implementing that today to get real progress?
To be very honest, if you start implementing gratitude, for example, if you start saying, I'm going to rest, I'm going to prioritize my rest before I show up, that's another way of, stepping into worthiness. Look at your budget. What are you spending? Are you spending it on Gucci shoes and Hermes bags, which are all good? I have no problem with them. Are you investing in your personal development as well? Do you have a space where you can just get clear about what do I want and be really honest and vulnerable in that space, right? Are you also, another very important thing is to be very real with yourself. There are 4 stages of transformation, Patrick. The first one is to see, where am I? What are the issues? The second one is to surrender, to accept what they are and not argue and say, but it's not really that bad, etc., etc. Where am I right now? I don't like this. Oh, I love it. This is great. The third state is to choose to shift. So what direction are you going to shift into? And the fourth, which is the most important, is then to stay there. So let's start with the first. What's your life audit? And if you want to hop on a call with me, I actually do a beautiful call where we look at various areas of your life and we can say exactly, okay, what parts of your life are you tolerating? What parts of your life are you celebrating? What's serving you? What isn't? Step number 1 is to see before you can go into any other steps at all.
Wow. And actually, I'm seeing fizzing across my screen at the moment a fabulous quotation that actually I think is very apt here from Impama. You cannot stop negative thoughts from coming into your mind, but you can make sure they leave as quickly as they enter. But isn't it just a fabulous quotation altogether? I'm sorry, maybe that was something you were supposed to read and I read it off the script. If so, my apologies. Bolutiwi, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. Look, it's absolutely marvelous to see how you're transforming the landscape for women across the world, but paving the way for a more sustainable future. Gosh, we're leaving here much, much more inspired and ready to make our own positive impact from this week's show. That is it. I'm sorry to say, ladies and gentlemen, I wish this could have gone on for hours more, but that's it from 161 of the PhD live stream. Thank you so much to our guest, Bolutiwi Aiyesimoju. It has been a joy to have you on this show. To stay updated and ensure you never miss a positivity hack delivered, follow Woman on It and turn on notifications. Once a video has been released, we'll let you know. Next week's PhD is going to be absolutely phenomenal. We've got a fabulous guest, Ahlem Bedoui Ben Swila. Join us for that show, same time as next week. Thank you so much to everybody who participated today. And as always, our positivity quote comes from Positive Thinking Only and goes, look for something positive in each day, even if some days you have to look a little harder. And if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude, as Maya Angelou said. Today is your day to hack the future, hack the positivity you want. My name is Patrick L. Young, stepping in for Bata Young today. Thank you so much to our magnificent guest, Bolutiwi Aiyesimoju. This has been PhD 161. Ladies, stay brilliant. Bye.